Doctor, I will be so mean if I don't start with asking you how you feel and how you are doing.
I am very fine and very busy because as I age, I've decided to focus on a number of things. Now, I'm focusing on my home region where I was born, Busoga,
Mm.
because the perception that Busoga is the poorest region in Uganda, and the people feeling that people from there are really inferior is something which goes to the core of my existence, because that's who I am. And I know it is the contrary. So I'll be working with the leadership in Busoga. I have already started. But this time I'm not going to focus on the politics, because many Ugandans believe that politics or government is the one to do everything, even government to get into our homes, to tackle issues of domestic violence, to tackle issues of upbringing of children, feeding and food, which is really the opposite of our culture. Because culturally, it is the people who fed the government. We used to take food to our chiefs. We are the ones who used to make the chairs, everything. So that mindset change is very important for people to understand that most of the money is not with the government. It is with us, the people. Because government just taxes a fraction of the wealth of this country. Now, even the people who work in government are not the best entrepreneurs. No, they are public servants. They do what the people want. So if we, the people, don't want them to do something, or we want them to do something, it has to be our will, according to Article 1 of the Constitution of our country. Sovereignty is with us. So I don't have the energy to go everywhere. So I'm focused on Uganda, on Busoga, and hope that all the knowledge I've acquired over time will have an impact by working with the technocrats, the business people, the religious, the cultural leaders, and the people themselves.
Is this something which was long overdue?
I think so. I've been out of government for 20 years directly. My role has been to advise, and I have been advising. I have written reports, which indeed I forward to my boss, who is the president of Uganda. But it is also my responsibility as a senior elder in this country and a former vice president to directly help him pass on the message that he's giving to the people and the interpretation of the policies in ways that people can understand. Now I'm a Rusoga speaker. Most of the things we talk about are in English. But also Busoga is a unique place. It has so many tribes. So you have to have grown up there to understand how the people hook onto policy, how they understand how to do things. So by working with the different ethnicities within Busoga, because I'm quite, I'm partly a Samia, I'm partly a Mulamoji, I'm partly a Mutenga. So those are the major ethnicities in Busoga. So I think in the latter part of my life, Busoga gave me so much, which it introduced me to Uganda and the rest of the world. I must really give back to Busoga. The other thing I'm doing is the issue of Pan-Africanism. Only two things I'm going to focus on is the fact that Busoga can't be in isolation of the rest of Uganda, nor can it be Uganda be in isolation of the rest of Africa and the world, yes. But again, like Busoga, Africa is really the underdog. And the key thing is peace and security. It's to do with the politics and the leadership. So that is the other thing I'm focusing on. I support the African Union in a number of areas, monitoring elections, doing mediation, and I move quite a lot. I go to West Africa, I go to North Africa, I go to Burundi, I go all these insecure areas. And I also believe that as a woman, to inculcate a culture of human rights, a culture of really humanity, ubuntu. I also have a role to play in that.
As you submit, I find a statement which looks somehow strange. When you say, I am doing this, looks like an individual effort. And I'm looking at the output when you're working solely.
That's the question you asked me. How am I? So before I insert myself into the whole, whom to work with, I have to understand what is it that I want to achieve. But like I said, I'm going to work with the technocracy in the country. I can't do it alone. Nobody can do it alone.
Yeah.
This thing of saying, I'm doing this, I did that is just in your head. Otherwise, even the ideas you get unconsciously come from the people you interact with. But you process them as a leader and you own them. But you can't do anything on your own. So you have to work with other people. In that respect, I'm working also with the young people of the current generation to understand how they think, how they are moving on with technology. And to that end, that's why I went back to school. I went to the Law Development Center to do law and sat with young people so that I can understand their psyche every day for 9 months, from morning up to evening. So, personally, my personality is very gregarious. I love people.
Okay. Doctor, when you in your preamble, there's what you said, that there's a perception that Busoga is the most poorest area in Uganda. Where does this come from, and how do you justify it?
When I was in government, I was always telling people they are functionally illiterate. Because when you are functionally illiterate, you see something, you see a duck and call it a chicken. Because it has wings, it moves. But the issue of the perception of just looking at the numbers or the figures as given out by the Uganda National Bureau of Statistics, and they say poverty density is highest in Busoga. Or now Busoga is number 2 to Karamoja. You have to understand what is the numerator and what is the denominator. Now, because I went back to school and did the demography and economics, I understand it. So the solution is not only in programs that take Bugaga to Busoga. It's very fundamental. In the family, the way a Musoga perceives the family. A Musoga perceives the family from the wealth that a woman brings him. So an unmarried person in Busoga is considered not to be a man, because tolina mukazi ozira mukazi okuba kiwe ozira mukazi. Now, why is this? The woman is the one who gives birth to children. So the more children a man has, that is his bugaga. Now, how do we actually calculate poverty density? We take the head of household, get their income, afuna sente imeka 1 million, divide it by the number of people under that head of households that head of the people in the household. So how much you earn, 1 million over the number of people. Now, again, when you go to the population census or household surveys, Busoga is the most polygamous area in Uganda. When a Busoga man shares a relationship or has a relationship with a woman, and that woman gets a child, that is a wife automatically. Once you give birth to a child of a Busoga man, oba mukazi we, you are not even not
a girlfriend,
not a girlfriend or a
side
side chick. No. And the relatives recognize you. Mama wa abana, mama wa Ibra, mama wa Nicolasi, mama. So the women, the polygamy, that woman will even move in the home. I'll give you an example. My father is a Catholic. He wedded my mother, who was also a Catholic. And my mother accompanied my father to marry a second wife. And also there was a third wife in the same household. Such things pertain in Busoga. So if you come, you are to come to my father's home. My mother had 9 children. My stepmother had 5 children. So his income divided over 14 plus himself 15 plus his 2 wives. Even the politicians, I remember one campaign when even a very educated elder politically, Kiza Besigye, went to a radio station in Jinja and said, you see, Busoga is the poorest. The issue, how do you persuade a Busoga man to marry fewer women or to have fewer children? Or how do you empower this woman to also be head of her household? Now, those are 2 different policy questions. Because if Wubos was to actually say, who is the house, how much is generated by the household, divided by the number of people in that household, Uganda wouldn't be poverty dense. Because the women in Busoga are very hardworking. As you all know, just look around and you'll know that that is what it is. Secondly, the issue of what is it that is being done in Busoga is also a political issue. It's an issue of planning because you have to look at the base. When the colonialists came, what was programmed for Busoga? When I was still vice president and minister of agriculture, I had the technocrats, because I was lucky, I had a team of economists who were working with me in my office, my economic advisors, because I was chairing the Presidential Economic Council and the agriculture. So we went back in history. During colonialism, what was Busoga subjected to doing? It was subjected to actually growing seasonal crops.
That is during the colonial time.
Yes. Now, if you looked at the whole map of Uganda, the areas which are designated poor are those that had seasonal crops. West Nile, with the tobacco. Then the east with the cotton. Buganda, coffee. The west refused to get rid of their cows and refused to grow the cotton. So a cow is not a seasonal crop. So when you do that at the macro level, divide it by the number of people, these are all issues which we have to explain to the people to understand. To add insult to injury, the sugarcane came, the population has grown, the landmass doesn't expand, so you find that Busoga, with the highest birth rate in the country, 6 children for every childbearing woman, that is from the age of 16 to 49. But in Busoga, you find women of 55 giving birth. Yes. So, you know, these are the issues. Once I go and explain Busoga, we shall get the solution. Otherwise, you go to the ministry responsible for disaster and show me at any time during the NRM government when the ministry responsible for disaster has actually gone to Busoga with a lorry of posho or a lorry of beans.
Is there a need?
Because it hasn't arisen. And how do you define poverty at the household? When your budget is mainly to do with food. And when you are the poorest of the poor, people come. Busoga, nobody has ever taken a lorry of beans or a lorry of posho to Busoga. Even when there is a lot of hurricane, it is only during this COVID when people were taking posho through the bishops and whatever, but the people didn't ask for it even. So this understanding of economics, the social, cultural, economics attributes of a particular area can impact the way they take on development programs. So when we come in, the money, in Busoga, we had anticipated this in the 90s through the Busoga People's Forum. And we said, with this kind of family structure, with this kind of number of children per woman, in the medium term, if we are to prepare for it, because the land is not expanding, Busoga should not be targeted for growing things at the peasant level. No, because the land is just not there. Even if you bring in technology that for tomatoes and whatever, it was tried and the Busoga threw it away. Because it's a very intensive exercise. So, that one also is important. We said under Busoga People's Forum, we must do skilling. This was in the 90s, when I was still vice president. So we said each county, buli isaza, ni baba royal chief we isazerio, let us promote skilling, carpentry, all the things you hear government talking about now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because currently there are various interventions. We have the PDM, President Museveni's gospel for wealth creation. Why is the narrative not changing in Busoga?
Well, PDM has just come, but it is another name for Bonabagagawali, another name for Myoga, another name for SACCOs. We've promoted all those. But if you don't deal with the fundamentals, you are just scratching on the top. And that is why, even as late as yesterday, I was in a meeting with the people in the diaspora and saying we all agreed we need to put up our own committee of technical experts in different fields. Because as you can see, to get into parliament, you only need to do A6. So, yes, that's very good. But who is actually feeding them with the information in a coherent way? So to me, I really believe that those programs, they are good programs. They have done something, but are they sustainable? Why weren't the SACCO's promotion sustainable? Why wasn't Bonabagagawale sustained? Why are we changing names? Because Albert Einstein said, if you do the same thing, the same way, do you actually expect any different results? So these are the questions that we are going to be asking ourselves in the region, and then we come out.
So as we implement this, we need to learn from the history.
Yes, then there's something from my medical background as well. Busoga is an island surrounded by water. Malaria is endemic there. And malaria reduces productivity. So you are working with malaria parasites in your blood. You get tired. You know, so you are not as productive as you would be. If you go to the garden, somebody of your age who would dig, who would put mounds of about 200 vikata for sweet potatoes, you can only do 50. When do you catch up? The thing is, it's not as simple as people imagine. So the effort has to be multi-sectoral in Busoga. And I think I'm in position to do something.
Okay.
Yes.
So your gospel is the fundamental solutions, and that calls for the perception. And you said something else apart from the perception?
No, the fundamentals are really socio-economic. Socio-economic. And when you change those ones, people will see you differently. I'll give you an example of myself. 30 years ago, I don't think I would be a subject of so many TV interviews talking about different subjects if this government had not come in with a policy of affirmative action for women. I would have been there in Mulago. Even in Mulago, I wouldn't have reached any leadership position. No. So when you come out and you do affirmative action in an area, talk about the issues, resolve the reason why something is happening, not treating the symptoms of the disease, but uprooting the causes, people will see you. When I was still young, the Japanese, if you went to any shop and you were wearing a trouser from Japan, they used to look like a dog had actually chewed them. Oh, Japan and the Chinese products. In the West, they were the underdogs. But see, you look at Japan, you look at China now. Did they do it by affirmative action from the white people? No. Those people will not want you to be better than them. That's part of human nature. And it's reflected in how we relate to other countries. Yes. So, we said in Busoga, we are not going to wait for other people. Let us uproot our own issues which are causing this by talking to our own people, by doing what we say. What can I do myself in my home village of Budwege? What is it? We've already sat with the royal chiefs and agreed on what kind of enterprise is okay for each of these families, big or small. Then everybody who will want that product will be going to Busoga. So these are issues that I'm involved in, like I told you, meeting the royal chiefs, meeting the religious leaders. I had about 150 health practitioners, nurses, midwives, doctors here about 4 weeks ago. I'm going to meet the architects and engineers. I'm going to meet teachers. I'm going to meet all those sectors. Listen to them and say, what can you do? I was meeting technocrats from my district, Iganga, and say, I want to start with you who have some income. Then you will be able to employ, if there are 5 of you in a village, and you employ 10 people on your farm, you would be imparting technology. Because for you, even if it fails, at least you have a salary from Makerere. You have a salary from Mulago. You have a salary from education. You have a salary. So it's getting us to have Busoga ourselves. And that has already started. as can be seen from what is happening now.
Thank you for that insight. Now, turning to the kingdom, Busoga Kingdom, you as a senior leader and someone who has been here for quite some time, how has the Busoga Kingdom tapped into that popular participation?
You see, when you call something a kingdom, people's minds fly to what is done in Britain, what is done in Uganda. But Busoga was never a kingdom. It wasn't. It was chiefdoms. Each one, which you would call now like a kingdom, some the size of Belgium. So it is the British, when they came in, who actually got all these chiefs together for purposes of ability to govern them, because they were also fighting among themselves. They had already got to Uganda, and then what sparked it off was the killing of this Hannington. Yes. So Busoga, the Busoga are very proud people. Other people say we are arrogant. The Baganda say we have input too. Because it's a very hostile area, beautiful but hostile. But we know how to stick together when the need arises, despite of our different ethnicities. So the kingdom is something which is coming now. Otherwise, even after the British, the first person was not a Musoga, he was a Mzungu. We first had a president of Busoga, and you have presidents of a republic. So Busoga, we call ourselves the republic within a republic. So the Kyabazinga, Okuzinga, Kyabazinga is the one who chairs all these chiefs of the chiefdoms. Now, for want of a better word now, we say kingdom. So we've accepted. Luzungu is not our language. But for us, we call him Kyabazinga.
Oh.
Yes.
So is it a blessing in disguise?
Well, it is. It is a blessing, not in disguise. It was done purposefully. It was purposeful, with each chiefdom coming in, with each chief coming with his people to bring all these people together. And if those chiefs who speak different languages, the Samya, the Basiki, the Balamoji, the Batenga in Kibulu, in wherever, the Banyoli in Mayuge, they each have their chief. Nanumba, Waholi, Ngobi, they are there. And I met them recently, and I was very, very happy. The new generation that has taken over from their fathers, because they elect within the clans, or they are hereditary. They are basically young people, like you see the Kyabazinga. So it's a wonderful time for us. Because when you talk to them, they see themselves in the future. While for us, the elders, see our legacy moving into the future through this young generation of traditional cultural leaders. And in the Constitution, which I was part of making, by the way, and then I was also Minister of Culture, we said these institutions are to promote those good cultural and traditional attributes of our people, so that each tribe that wants to have a traditional or cultural leader can come together, make that Muteso feel good, make the Lugbara feel good. Because if you don't believe in who you are, wherever you go, you are like a zonto. You are pushed right and left. You do not anchor your ideas into anything. that will make you rooted there. It's not about tribalism, no. What makes us humane is the fact that all of us, in each of our tribes, the way we socialized and agreed to be together is because we believe in common values. And I want to tell you that as a minister, a former minister of culture in this country, I didn't find a single tribe which had cultural attributes, positive ones, different from what the Christian religion teaches and from what the Muslim teaches, or even the Hindi. All those, they are the same all over the world.
So how has this promotion of the cultural diversity of Busoga, how has it been?
The diversity, Busoga, its diversity is seen in its music, in the languages. The languages have not been promoted at all because at independence, even before independence, in Busoga, I was in primary from 1961 when I joined the primary school. Before that, I was in kindergarten in Namasagali, where my father was working for the East African community as a postdoc superintendent. And in Namasagali kindergarten, Swahili, East African community. I go to primary school in Kaliro, P1. There they speak Lulamoji. In my home area, where my father comes from, we speak Lutenga. But my mother is from Bulamoji. So outside, I was speaking Lulamoji because my parents insisted we learn the two languages. I started Uganda. The books was Luganda. Catechism was Luganda. We were colonized by the Baganda. And that is what is pertaining even now. So whatever we do, we compare ourselves to Buganda. Just like Ugandans look to where they are English speaking, Britain and America. So this thinking, how do we actually impart it to our children? Because wherever they go, if they say, I'm a Musoga, which language do you speak? Do you speak Samia? Do you speak Lunyoli? Do you speak Lulamoji? Oba Lusiginyi? Do you speak Lutenga? This is what the cultural leader should be doing. And then, what is associated with the language? The value of the proverbs. Musoga said, "Wokoberaidi tomalayo." So you speak in proverbs. Mwene nkovu na mana bwesiga. That's why I have a scar of Busoga here. So who should actually know how it's hurting me? It's me myself. So I should go and scratch it. I should go back there and make sure it doesn't bleed. It's your responsibility. So you get a place like Uganda here. They have a saying which was taught to me by my former secretary, Mrs. Kagoda Damali. Nti eyakusinze ensekere ekulya n'ekutikka n'amagi gaayo. That is what the British have done. They are like ensekere sitting in our hair. Even their eggs, the children, from independence up to now, their children, subsequent governments are still milking us. So the language, if somebody does not know their language, it is a very, very bad thing. Because however good you speak English with American accent, with British accent, however well you learn Chinese, you will never be Chinese, and they will never take you to be their own.
So, Doctor, don't you think it was overtaken by priorities?
What priorities now?
Education.
Which type of education? These are the real things. You think our people were not imparting education? Africa is hostile. How did we survive? Didn't they find us with institutions to govern ourselves? Weren't we training our young people to ensure food security? Weren't we teaching them to add value? Weren't we processing the milk? Who was rearing the cattle? Didn't we have division of labor? We had education. Even that education, we can own it through our own way, our own languages. Don't the Chinese have science? Do they learn in English? The Japanese? The Indians? Don't they do the same exams as we do? When I go to India and I enter theater, I was educated here in English, but I can operate there very comfortably because a human body is a human body. Yes. So it's these issues that really make cultural institutions important. But have they grasped what they are supposed to do? No.
So who is supposed to be tasked? The political leaders, the chiefs, royal chiefs, or the population, the rest of the public?
All of us. Omusoga akoba ati akyenda n'akijja. Meaning, you cannot, even if I take you, they say, the Bazungu, that you cannot take a cow to the well and force it to drink if it doesn't want to drink. But if we badly want to be who we are and leave a legacy to our children and grandchildren, to be proud of being African, that's our job. Nobody is going to do it for us. Nobody. And it starts at the household level. That's not a government issue. It starts at the household level. If you are ashamed of your children speaking your language and you beat them in a home because they are speaking your language, or you speak English, you get it, especially the women who stay with the children from the womb. If you sing English lullabies, and you don't sing mbonja namuna kuluma mbonja. My children, I used to sing them those traditional lullabies my mother sang for me. They are Baganda. But those hymns, they've made them sing to their own children because they love them.
So, Doctor,
from the womb. But if you are a woman from the womb and you don't even want to say, I'm a Musoga, or I'm a Mukonjo, or I'm a Mwamba, or I'm you know, this home is actually a United States of Uganda, because I have daughters-in-law who are from Kisoro. They speak Kinyarwanda. And when you come here, either speak Kinyarwanda or Busoga or Uganda when we are here. When you go to school, speak English. So I even have some who are Germans and Bemba. Hey, now they are also bringing Swahili. They live in Kenya. It's wonderful. A child can learn 8 languages at the same time. But when you are colonized, you'll be told, don't speak vernacular. Our languages are the vernacular. Don't speak vernacular. That is how you get indoctrinated. And it will take us time. So the earlier we get the ones who are the interface, who were born before independence. Now we see where the world is going. It's our responsibility to really come out and say.
Call for a policy, a shift in policy.
What policy? It is there in the Constitution. The Constitution is the fundamental policy. We even said in the Constitution, every child must learn from their native language where they live. You see us implementing it now. And there are people who are against it. So they take their children to international schools. where they learn French, Japanese, Chinese, whatever. No, their traditional languages, nothing.
So Doctor,
the names,
this
you
also
see the priests, this is where I also work, the names, Mrs. Wandera, that is taboo to call me Wandera. Because Africans, we have our own names, which have a lot of meaning, which bring on board our own saints. A saint is somebody who was exceptional in being humane. That's it. Does it mean we don't have saints who are exceptional through our names? We are just seeing it in the martyrs of Uganda, who are killed for one reason or another, to do with Christianity and the values of Christianity, which are also our values. But you wouldn't find a child baptized in Rwanga or Kizito. No, they must have John in Rwanga, something. No. So for me, my children, they don't call themselves Kazibwe. They have their Mambe Nangira name, Rutu, Masagazi, Nansubuga. Even when my daughter was in Germany, where she was living, her apartment had Nansubuga. You must have identity as a person. Who are you? Yes, your clan. That's who you are. As a woman, who are you? Pegging yourself to your father and husband and becoming a burden on them. Identify yourself and stand tall as God's creation.
Okay.
Yes.
So how has the Chavazinga enhanced its restoration?
Well, the thing is, the Chavazinga institution is not as old as the Bunyoro or Buganda or those ones. It's an institution in the making.
Okay.
It's an institution in the making. Yes. But the people who started it on a rotational basis, which as a republic is good for us, some of us Republicans. So that I also wait for my Ngobi. Major Mudola, who is my chief in Chiguru, to also become a Chavazinga in rotation. So they even agreed on how they were to rotate among 5 chiefdoms whose ancestors came from Bunyoro. The other 6 came from regional areas. They didn't have royalty, but they have their leaders whom they elect. So when they met, they said, let Morochi, Zibondo, Ovubula Moji Kaliro start. So Zibondo started. Politics came in. Then the one of Ugabula came in, the father of the current Chavazinga. Then politics came in. That's why we said in the Constitution, whereas these were governance institutions, they are traditional. Let us see how we can bring the people together. And that's the beauty of being a Busoga. I know that anytime my Ngobi will come on board, another time Nanumba will come on board, another time Tabingwa of Luka will come on board, like that. So that is what brings us together. And that's the beauty of keeping a place running. When there is a hope that when this one leaves, another one will come. Another one will come. So people will wait. So as we wait, we make our place Chiguru really vibrate. And then the person who is in the lineage there, they'll make sure they train somebody in their family to be able to take over the Chavazinga-ship.
Okay.
Yes.
Like, how about, what are some of the ceremonial aspects which can catch someone's immediate attention when you talk about the Chavazinga?
Go to. If you've seen the ceremonies of installing the Omukama of Bunyoro, they are the same. They are the same. Yes. And if you had attended the installation, what is it called? The anniversary, the 9th anniversary when it was celebrated in Kiguru, Ewango, you would have seen them. Two key things. They are the bachues and the drums. The Bachwezi are the first rulers of our region. The Bachwezi, Abaswezi. Even now, when they say, oh, these ones are Satan, even now, the King of England is the head of the Church of England, isn't he? So the Bachwezi were the leaders and the rulers. And every leader is anointed by God. So they were also the spiritual leaders. So the installation of the Chabazinga of Busoga is incomplete without the Bachwezi
and the drum
and the drums. And we know them. We hear them, we know them. They are different from these ones of our usual dance. We know them. And when they actually play them, you feel your whole being. It's almost like going in a trance from the drumming itself. Because they make every part of your body vibrate.
So, Doctor, I want us to. It's quite interesting, but now I want us to have this very quickly.
Yes.
The forthcoming royal wedding, of course, love is love between the two, but a love which is being which is going to impact in millions of people.
Let me tell you. Let me not practice ageism. And I want you to, this business of falling in love, yes, it's good. You fall in love.
Yes.
But when you are in such a position, whom you marry is important. It's not a matter of whom you love. Because whoever you marry impacts on the culture and traditions of that region. So you are not going to fall in love with anybody and marry them. There are people who have that role that is also specific about the Chabazinga marriage. In a Bantu is selected, and it is good if the Chabazinga falls in love with her. Yes. This I know.
Is there a committee?
Oh yes, there are people who do the job, and different women are looked at. And they have to be from Busoga. They have to be Busoga. So they take the history. Luckily enough, Busoga, they can be a Munyoli, a Samia, a whatever. You see what I mean? Unlike in Uganda here, your father must be a Uganda.
Who chooses this committee?
The Sengas of the Kabaka and the women leaders in the clans of Busoga. Because the tradition is governance, but the culture is through the clans. You see what I mean? And the custodian of culture is the woman. She's the one in her every action must practice what is accepted as good cultural practice in Busoga. So the clans take a part in selecting the Inebantu. So you can fall in love with whoever you want, but the Inebantu is another matter completely.
How about if this is also treated the same way with other love affairs?
Well, culturally, you wouldn't marry a woman if your clan didn't accept her. That's why our traditional wedding is a cultural issue. You must go and find out what the boy's side is. The boy's side finds out. And they don't start out of the blue. What has disrupted this practice is this education, boarding schools, people moving away to live in different parts of the country. Otherwise, you get married, marriage even now, they will tell you, we don't accept that man. And many times if they don't accept that man, you will see it. Some of us have seen it. Yes, even when we are old.
So, Doctor, from whatever we've been discussing,
because marriage, this thing, it's as you grow older, you start analyzing this love thing, friendship. I'll tell you, friendship lasts more than love. But love is subjected to the law of diminishing returns, especially when it comes to the role of propagation of the human race. So if you can separate those different aspects, then you'll know why families or clans are interested in looking for a spouse for their children. Whether it's a girl to marry or a boy, the girl will be married to. Yes, it is a matter of survival. So if you actually, let's say for instance, you fall in love with somebody who is a sickler or a carrier, the other one is a carrier. Before they didn't have all these DNAs, but they say, don't marry into that family. Balwala nnyo, bagwa ensimbu, they are shorty, which is important in gynecology, which means cesarean section. Babi, which means that in that family, they are cultured to take on things which are not theirs, because they say, oh, no, they saw the grandfather stealing, the father is stealing, the people steal in the home, nobody tells them. So for them, that's normal. Don't marry into that family. That's what it is. Because you do that, there will be no peace, not only in the clan, but also in the village. And even between the two. Like in my region, there is sickle cells. I tell you, if you grow up in a family which has sickle cell anemia, it is a very, very trying issue, emotionally, economically, even to the other children who are not sicklers. So this thing of marriage, we take it lightly. And that is a key role of the Isebantu and Inebantu. To be able to speak up and say, now it is modern times, no marriage before I see your medical certificate clearing you of ABCD, clearing you of ABCD. Yes. So in our days, it was done different with the technology. It is bound to even be much easier.
So this highly anticipated royal wedding, in terms of boosting or reshaping the Glory of Busoga region, what contribution or what do you share with the public that will contribute to this?
Well, for me, my contribution, which I would ask them to contribute, is really to sit with their children and talk to them about the importance of culture. Then those who can, let them make a financial contribution. Let them listen to the history of Busoga, because it's running on the radios with their families. There are books which have been written on the history of Busoga, spearheaded by the Catholic diocese, Jinja diocese. Father Kayaga has done a lot of research on Busoga. Buy those books. Buy those books. Buy the Bibles written in Busoga, because we now have them, again spearheaded by the same institution. Because the Bible has such beautiful stories which relate to all of us, even the New and Old Testament. So when you learn how to read that Bible, you will be teaching yourself Busoga, and your children will be learning Busoga. And then after that, let's have the Bibles written in Samia.
Mm.
For Wakoli's chiefdom. Let them be written in Rulamoji. For Zibondo's chiefdom. Let them be written in Runyoli for Nanumba's chiefdom. And then we learn. For me, I'm a very proud Busoga, because like I told you, I'm more than one tribe in Busoga. So I'm really the prototype.
So finally, how best should the attention of Busoga be sustained even after the attention of this wedding?
Well, that's what we started with in the beginning. When you have a wedding in the family, that is when the whole family comes together. So what we are doing, we are all examining ourselves in our different roles. What do we do as Bachiguru? What do we do as clan leaders? What do we do as medical professionals? What do we do as teachers? So that this, what we have sustained, the momentum is actually kept going. So to me, it's just like any, you have a wedding in the family. It's such a wonderful. You see people you haven't seen. You see their children. You see their grandchildren. It's a time of celebrating who you are. Your friends. It's also like a time, the other celebration is a death. When you get a death in the family is when you know which child does what, who will be able to help. It's a wonderful time for us in Busoga.
Okay.
And we are all praying for the Iseban and Ineban. And we shall support them to be able to do their work.
From the perspective of being a senior doctor, I cannot fail without asking you, why is the surge in malaria cases currently in Uganda?
It's climate change. That is what everybody would say. But I would say it is failure of policy. Failure of policy. Because malaria has been in other parts of the world and it has been eradicated. Why not us? Why do we just keep on massaging it with bed nets, with treating, quinine, chloroquine, coartem? We massage. A woman is pregnant, give her this medicine. We are just massaging the problem. That's a failure of policy.
When you say failure of policy, there's a mind, someone would say that Dr. Kazibwe was part of the policymakers.
Even before I joined, and I have given my recommendations, even before I joined government. And I must exonerate my president, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He has said very clearly to the Ministry of Health, tell me what you want us to do to eradicate malaria. Up to now, we want him to launch bed nets. We want him to do whatever. The solution, treat everybody at the same time. Get rid of the parasite within our blood. The mosquito is a very innocent thing. That little girl, she comes to get a smaller drop of blood for her eggs. The boy is elsewhere pollinating our maize and whatever. If that girl finds that drop of blood without plasmodium, how will she infect another person? So killing the mosquito is not the solution when everybody is moving around with malaria parasites. When you go to give blood transfusion, you have malaria. When you go to donate blood, you are there. You are okay because you are young. You give blood. The plasmodium is there. Do they test the blood for malaria? So you will still give it to another person. We know the solution. But again, up there, the people who colonized us, one of the most lucrative business in the world is to keep you sick. Medical technology, pharmaceuticals and medical technology. And the plethora of experts who are experts in malaria, malaria research, malaria making medicine, malaria whatever. They will tell you, if malaria goes away, what shall we do? And this I have heard with my own ears in London. Yes.
So it is deliberate.
Yes, I keep saying that we are like coffin makers. If people don't fall sick, what shall we do?
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your time. We have really had a good conversation, which is fruitful. I believe next time we shall have a better one from your political lens.
At which political lens? I don't have a political lens. I never had a political lens myself. Yes.
Thank you.